everyone. Welcome to Conversations with Sekani, a podcast for people in their 20s who are trying to figure out life and not get lost along the way. Today's guest is a speaker and author who helps women unlearn who they were taught to be so they can become who they actually are. With a background spanning international sales, leadership training, and transpersonal psychology, including work with and Lauretta has lived through both high-level corporate success and deep personal reinvention. Her work focuses on identity, self-trust, and the unconscious patterns that quietly shapes our decisions, challenging people to confront the story they've been living and consciously choose something different. Lauretta, welcome to Conversations with Sekani. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, Sekani. It's a pleasure to be here for me too.
All right, so I'm particularly excited about this conversation because it has to do with women, and when it comes to women, I'm always so excited, right? So I want us to, go back in time, right? Your 20s. So when you look back at like your early years and your 20s, basically, what identity were you living from, and how much of it was shaped by conditioning rather than choice?
Um, Basically, it's a good question. Um, I was, and this is a word that denotes poverty, but I wasn't poor at the time, meaning I was working, I was making decent money already. I was going to school at night, and I worked for a high-tech company since I was 19. And but I was surviving because I was extremely anxious and extremely insecure
Mm,
due to previous conditioning, which was having been shuffled between household and as my parents split when I was 1 year old. And so I had no father, basically, and I was until I was 15. I met him when I was 15. And then I grew up in different places, often abused and beaten physically. And, it was a very, very tough first 15 years of my life and beyond. Um, and so the conditioning happened in the sense that I believed I didn't deserve to be loved and accepted and taken in as much as I now know I was. And so I began early on to do everything and anything to be someone that I could be recognized um, professionally or personally. And that was the core of my conditioning.
mm. Wow. Okay, so first of all, I'm sorry you had to go through that, right? But I need you to understand that a whole lot of women, especially in today's world, right? I feel like we are conditioned that way.
Yeah.
We feel like we do not deserve love, or probably we cannot get true love, right? I don't know why that is, but it could be as a result of also maybe the childhood traumas or how we were brought up, right? So I want us to, dive into this and actually talk at length about this, right? So
Mm.
back to you, right? You achieved major success early in your career. Did that success feel aligned, or was there already a sense of something missing?
No, that happened because when I came to the States in my early 20s, I knew that whereas in Italy I was a woman, a pretty woman who would attract men, and I wasn't taken seriously for my intellectual
Mm,
gifts. In the United States, if I could prove my capacities, I would be rewarded.
mm,
Um, and I knew that. So I went to see an agent and I asked all kinds of questions, what's the fastest way to show what I can do? And he said, sales. You go for
mm,
a company which is professional. And he mentioned, I think, IBM, 3M, which is no longer in existence the way it was, and Xerox. And they recommended Xerox. So I called Xerox, and from day one, I was 100% determined to get hired by them. And six months later, I was, because they
mm,
had amazing training and a professional level that no other company to this day can offer.
mm. Wow. Okay. Sales.
Yeah,
Right. I
yeah.
think they are right, actually. As a pretty lady, most times it's usually sales that gets us there, right? If you, you're right, because I also worked in the sales department, marketing, actually. So that's quite relatable. All right. So, yes, I want us to do a deep dive into your work, right? So,
Yeah.
your work centers on learning. So, what does that actually look like in practice?
Learning what it looked like in practice.
On learning, what does it look like in practice?
Unlearning. I wasn't aware that I was unlearning. I was more, as I said, combining survival with achievement.
Mm,
So I was trying to calm my spirit. I was married to a very good man who was helping me a lot, feeling, um, feeling enough, that I was enough. And also, I was achieving my professional goals, which were those of gaining recognition and a golden ticket for the future. And my years at Xerox, that's what they did for me, by reaching those levels. Um, but in the meantime, I also was experiencing a internal shift of wow, I'm not that stupid. Wow, because the few years I lived with my father, he would beat me
mm,
and say, "You do not think, I think for you."
mm,
And it was a constant message of you're not smart enough, you're not, and so that was embedded in me almost. And so to realize that that wasn't true, it was like, oh wow, it's not true. So
wow.
um yeah, and that's what happened. Of course, that was only a part of how I came to realize who I was and who I've become, because then other things happen.
Mm, right, well, I'm curious, right?
Say
Looking
it,
at,
say it
looking
again. I
at,
didn't hear you. What did you say?
all right, I said, I'm curious, right? Looking
Yeah.
at women or people you've worked with, right? What are some of the most common hidden patterns that you see shaping their lives without them even realizing it?
Okay. I will tell you, when I was 40, I was pregnant with my second child, a boy, and I lost him at birth. And that was because I was working full time, manning a big house, raising a toddler, and my husband was working all the time and he wasn't present in our life basically. And I wasn't taking care of myself because I had continued to do what so many women do, which is to give to others and not to themselves.
Mm,
You're asking why women do what they do, right?
right,
Okay.
right.
So when my son passed,
Mm,
I had to stop everything that I was doing, and really, after an initial very depressing time, I quit my job. I went back to school and got a degree in women's studies, where I learned that more or less, most women are trained to give to others, and it's embedded in our genes almost that we matter less than the other gender.
mm,
You can see it even in corporate America, for instance. When a woman raises a question in a meeting, she gets scrutinized, and she gets a lot more observations than a man. Women are subject to a lot more criticism, and it's tougher because we have lived the whole century in a patriarchal system.
Mm.
And depending on which culture you're in, it can be more severe or less. But ultimately, it's this way. So I learned that through my degree in women's studies. And then I went on to get a master in transpersonal psychology to understand how to penetrate the inner side of who we are, the soul, so to speak. And that's when I learned more about spirituality and the connection to God and to the universe. And that was also very helpful because it calmed all my fears about being on the right path or the wrong path or being good, being bad, all this stuff. There was no longer a duality. I felt like, okay, we're all good. We're just here to learn. And this is not really the end. It's just a passage. Um, you know, life is.
First one. Okay. All right, Loretta. You mentioned the loss of your second child. My condolence, actually. I'm sorry about that. It's a
Thank
first,
you. Thank you.
right? Okay. So yeah, you know, you mentioned something, right? You said women tend to pour into everybody but themselves. That's actually very true, right? We tend to give to other people. We are always pouring into everyone, but we do not pour into ourselves, right? So how can we start breaking that pattern and begin investing in ourselves more?
Um, I think, I mean, Sekani, I've always done things in a drastic way. If something doesn't work, eventually, I literally pack up a luggage and leave. And I've done that with two marriages. I've done that with leaving continents and moving across continents. It's been really the way I do things. But I do
Mm,
not recommend it because although you do end up with a new life, new things, it's extremely disruptive to your
mm,
system, to your life, to yourself, because when you do that, you're physically cutting off all the connections you've had to yourself, to others, and you're not really learning. You're just being distracted
mm,
from the pain that you're feeling, because wherever you go, you have to take yourself with you, right?
mm,
So what I recommend is to take small steps towards respecting your intuition, respecting your inner desires, respecting what feels right to you. If you are in a relationship, for instance, and you feel like you're giving more than you're receiving, just stop
mm,
and see where it goes. Or if you are in a job, or you serve a role in a company, or you're even volunteering, and you're just trying to be the perfect person, and you're you're not being rewarded or acknowledged or anything that you think should be right. Listen to that and do something else, because unless we let our inner voices speak, we're never going to be happy. Yeah, there are compromises in society, of course, but I've seen women just completely annihilate themselves for the sake of looking good or making good money, and and then they live a life that doesn't fulfill their mission, doesn't fulfill, who they are.
mm. Right. Wow. So, right, the first thing to do is to actually listen to your intuition, right? If you feel
Absolutely.
Right. If you feel like you're pouring into something that isn't, giving back the way it should, just stop. Right, like you have said earlier. And yes, Loretta, thank you so much for that beautiful one, I would say. And I want us to talk on reinvention, right? Because a whole lot of us have gotten to a point where I think it's time for us to reinvent ourselves. But let's talk about you first, right? You've rebuilt your life multiple times. So what allowed you to keep, choosing forward instead of staying stuck?
What allowed me to do that, or what pushed
Right.
me to do that?
What kept you going instead of, staying stuck, you still kept on moving forward. Why was that?
My health was being affected
Hmm.
because I wasn't in alignment with my cells in my body. You will notice that whenever you are going against the grain of who you are, eventually the person gets sick
Hmm.
because we're one. Body, mind, spirit, we're one. Unless we are connected and flowing on the three aspects of who we are, the body gives up.
Hmm.
And I see that, unfortunately, even people very close to me at the moment. And I was in a marriage that wasn't working for 20 plus years. Eventually, I left, and I was very ill. I was not doing well, and there was nothing I could do. I tried everything to make it work, and it didn't work. And that's what got me to. I knew I was going to die if I stayed, so I left.
Hmm. Wow. Okay. So like you said, you left, right? So I'm curious, right? When someone reaches that point of truth, right? Like how you told yourself the truth that you know what, if I don't leave, I would probably die, right? What actually happens or what changes internally for someone?
Oh, it's the pure definition of trauma. You're traumatized because all of a sudden you're unable to see straight because things change overnight almost. For me, they did. And you have to learn, at that point, you really have to learn to love yourself. Because whereas before you had someone by your side, good or bad or indifferent, it doesn't matter. You knew you could rely on this person to take the garbage out, go shopping if you needed to, what have you. All of a sudden, you're by yourself and doing things your way. So, as I said, it can be very, very startling, and the thing to do is really to take time before making a decision this drastic. I did it because I had to, but I would recommend taking things slow and also changing things little at a time because we can find satisfaction being home on our own, even if we don't have the perfect marriage, nobody does, and enjoy ourselves in other ways, right? But oftentimes we are again conditioned to think that happiness comes from the other person, and that was one of my mistakes too. I thought, oh well, if my marriage doesn't work then I leave, and it's not always that way. In fact, it could be different. It could be different. I Yeah, you satisfy yourself and then things might work and might not. So and there is one thing I want to mention, Sekani, if I may. Through my studies after I lost my baby, I learned to have faith in the universe and God, and the fact that we're supported. If we choose correctly according to our intuition, which is really, some people call them angels, it's our intuition and our soul. We cannot go wrong because and we get the support we need, whether it's a new job or a new friend or a new partner. We do get that, and we need to be faithful in that regard. instead of being afraid, because fear is the worst enemy of all.
Mm. Wow. Okay, so keyword right there is do not be afraid. Always just trust that I personally I believe in God, right? So I'd say always just trust that God will take control, right? Just have faith.
Yeah,
Exactly. Have
yeah,
faith.
and pray, pray
Mm.
that, just inside of you, know that you are part of it and you have the ability to make things work. Because again, we're here temporarily, so
Mm.
um, we have all the tools to make things
Mm.
work.
Right. Okay. Prayer, having faith, and trusting your intuition.
Yeah.
Right. So yes, thank you, Loretta. I
You're
must,
welcome. Thank you.
I must say this has been an amazing conversation. And yeah, before we go, I just, want you to talk to someone out there, right? Particularly young adults who are trying to, navigate life and relationship. Right? So, what is one mindset shift that can help someone in their 20s step into a more authentic version of themselves earlier?
Um, to try not to take shortcuts, thinking that
Mm.
you can be smarter than someone else and hurt someone in the process. Because just because someone is an adult, it doesn't mean he or she knows better than you do.
Mm.
In fact, it's often the contrary, because when you're young, you're closer to God because you've just come from God. So trust yourself and be as sincere and as have as much integrity as possible, and don't hurt anyone, because you think, oh my God, I'm going to do this and make money. And in the meantime, you're cheating on someone, or cheating someone, or doing something that doesn't have integrity. Karma is real. And when you do that, it will come back to teach you that is wrong. And
Mm.
it will just take more time for you to learn. So just stay the course and have faith that things are going to work out. And whatever you want, you express it, you visualize it, and you feel what it's like to be there. Before I moved, I kept thinking, I see myself walking the streets of that city. I see myself being there. And then it happened. Our minds are so powerful, so powerful. We just forget how powerful we are, and we
Mm.
can make anything happen.
Mm. Wow. Okay. Yes. Thank you, Loretta. First of all, you said do not hurt anyone, right? Don't take shortcuts.
No,
And
no.
as you right, believe in God, our minds are powerful, right? So, yeah, thank you. This has been a deeply powerful and reflective conversation. So,
Thank
thank
you.
you for sharing your story and your
Thank you.
perspective with us today, right? So, yeah, to the final segment, it's called the rapid fire segment. Starting now, right? So, what is a belief that you once held above yourself that you have completely outgrown?
Oh, sorry about that. Um, that I was irresistibly good looking. That has changed.
Oh no, I think you still are though.
I'm joking. I'm joking. Age
Oh.
has changed me. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Well, I was able to do anything and achieve anything. I've come to realize that things can be as challenging for me as for everyone else, but I do know that I can do it. I have. I'm I'm more humble, let's put it this way. Before it was my ego running my life because I had to survive. Now it's my whole self in in question.
Okay, wow. All right. Thank you, Loretta. for that
Thank you.
beautiful one, by the way. And so, yes, what is one habit that keeps you grounded in who you truly are?
Meditation. And
Mm,
when I say meditation, I don't mean just, humming all day long with cross-legged. I mean, I spend time in silence and alone quite a bit
mm,
to hear the voices of silence, which
mm,
teach me to quiet the mind and breathing slowly, and then I'm okay. And I read a lot of spiritual tomes, a lot. I read Paramahansa Yogananda, Eckhart Tolle, some of the more classic authors, but I read a lot of that, so it really helps.
mm. Wow. All right. So meditation and reading too, right? And
Yeah,
finally, yes, what is a truth that people need to hear, but they often avoid?
a truth
Yes, that people need to hear, but they
that they
always avoid.
often avoid.
Right.
Instead of choosing to always have fun and go out
Mm,
with people and, distract yourselves, choose to be alone a little bit more.
mm. Wow. Okay. That's deep, I must say, Loretta. Right. You know, I'm not going to lie, it's gonna be a little bit difficult, especially for younger adults, right? But it's important that they know that it is possible, as much as it is difficult, it's possible to do. Right. So yes, thank you, Loretta, for this
Yeah.
beautiful one. And yeah, finally, where can listeners get to, learn more about you and also connect with you?
Well, I have obviously an email, laurettazucchetti@gmail.com, and then I have a website, um, laurettazucchetti.com, and I'm developing an offer which is going to be across all the social media channels pretty soon.
Mm,
So it won't be that difficult to get a hold of me. All you have to do is just Google my name and you'll find out.
mm.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, Loretta. And I'm going to put the links in the show notes so that, it's easily accessible for listeners.
Thank you. Thank you. That's what and I'll also write a review of this conversation. I really appreciate
Oh,
the depth of your questions, Sekani.
oh, thank you, Loretta. I do appreciate that. And yes, to my beautiful listeners, thanks for tuning in to Conversations with Sekani. If this episode sparked something in you, just as it did in me, make sure to share to someone who you think might need this. And also subscribe so you don't miss out on new episodes. Once again, thank you, Loretta, and you have a wonderful day ahead of you.
Thank you. Thank you. I look forward to the recap, to the conversation, to listening to it.
Right, me too. All right, take care.
You too. Thank you so much again. Bye bye.
Bye.